90th birthday celebrations for the Dalai Lama started early here in Dharamshala in northern India. Particularly significant this year as the Tibetan spiritual leader brings an update about his succession. But as thousands come together to commemorate another year of the Dalai Lama's life, it marks one more year away from his homeland, Tibet. Born Lamo Tondup in 1935 to a family of farmers, he was just 2 years old when he was recognized as the 14th reincarnation of the Dalai Lama, the highest spiritual leader in Tibetan Buddhism, by a Tibetan government search party. In 1940, he was enthroned here in the Potala Palace in Tibet's capital Lhasa and renamed Tenzin Gyatso. But a decade later in 1950, China's new leaders, the Chinese Communist Party, invaded and annexed Tibet, proving an immense political challenge for the 15-year-old. After protests to the international community and initially seeking refuge on the Tibetan-Indian border, the Dalai Lama returned to Lhasa a year later, with Beijing promising Tibet could have regional autonomy and that the Dalai Lama could control internal affairs. He would go on to meet with the founder of the People's Republic of China, Mao Zedong, and the most senior communist leaders. But Chinese treatment of Tibetans deteriorated, and after almost a decade of tensions and fears over the Dalai Lama's safety, a full-scale uprising broke out in 1959, which was violently suppressed. The Dalai Lama was forced to flee, disguised as a soldier, making his way across the border to India, where he was granted asylum. Ever since then, he's lived in this Himalayan town, where he established a government in exile and has dedicated his life to advocating for Tibet and his people. On that journey, he's become one of the world's most recognizable figures, meeting with presidents and religious leaders around the world, and becoming an icon for compassion and peace, receiving the Nobel Peace Prize in 1989. But his influence and popularity have long been a thorn in the side for Beijing. The Chinese government accuses the Dalai Lama of being a separatist, and previous visits to Taiwan have particularly been met with an angry response. Beijing continues to demand the Dalai Lama recognize Tibet and Taiwan as integral parts of China if he ever wishes to return, as well as pressuring international leaders to give him the cold shoulder.
中方反对任何国家政府借涉当问题干涉中国内政，反对任何国家领导人以任何形式会见达赖。
And this pressure from China is forcing the Tibetan Buddhist community to accelerate the timeline of traditions, as the question looms of who will succeed the Dalai Lama after his death, a matter where Beijing claims to hold authority.
Generally, while a Lama is still alive, there won't be any talk about his reincarnation. That talk only comes when that Lama passes away. But in this time, the discussion is coming mainly because the Chinese government is interfering in the reincarnation of His Holiness the Dalai Lama.
The Dalai Lama has previously said his successor will be born outside of China, but there has also been speculation as to whether the lineage would continue. And on Wednesday, he put the rumors to bed, confirming that he will indeed have a successor. The Dalai Lama says that his office, the Gadem Phodrang Trust, has the sole authority to recognize his future reincarnation. But as many Tibetans fear, China continues to reject this, holding on to an imperial-era selection ritual.
达赖喇嘛的转世必须坚持国内寻访、金瓶撤迁、中央政府批准的原则。
As Beijing seeks to tighten its grip on religious practices within its borders, Tibetans around the world fear a successor chosen not by faith, but by force. And as the Dalai Lama nears 90, so too does a turning point, not just for his faith, but the identity and autonomy of an entire people. Kamashu and Issy for TaiwanPlus.